Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of truth and prosperity, I welcome you today with a heart full of faith and a voice aligned with divine order. We are not here merely to talk about money as the world sees it, fleeting paper, numbers in a bank, or toil-born reward. No, we are here to unveil the invisible laws, the spiritual patterns that govern supply, abundance, and true wealth. Money is a spiritual idea. It flows where faith is firm. This simple yet profound truth stands as a cornerstone in understanding divine supply. Most people think of money as a purely physical or material object: coins, paper, numbers in a bank, but in truth, it originates in the unseen. In the realm of spirit, money is not a cold transaction or a means of mere survival. It is a symbol of energy, flow, and belief. Before it ever appears in your wallet, it exists in your consciousness. When your inner world aligns with the laws of divine substance, money responds like a servant to its master. What you hold in your consciousness about money is far more powerful than what you hold in your hand. If you believe that money is scarce, hard to come by, or that you are undeserving of it, you cut yourself off from the divine stream. If you see money as evil, or believe that it can only be earned through struggle, then you block the channels through which spirit could bless you. On the other hand, if you see money as a natural extension of God's abundance, as part of your divine inheritance, then it begins to appear in your life through both expected and unexpected ways. Faith is the magnetic force that draws divine substance into form. When faith is weak, the flow of money becomes erratic or stagnant. But when faith is strong, unwavering, and confident in the goodness of God, then money becomes obedient. Like electricity flowing through a clean wire, abundance flows where faith is clear and uninterrupted. Faith is not merely hoping or wishing. It is knowing an inner certainty that divine supply is present, even when the outer shows nothing. It is standing still and seeing the salvation of the Lord, even when bills are due and the bank account appears empty. Faith commands, it does not beg. It knows that God is the source, not jobs, not clients, not investments, and when one channel closes, faith calmly waits for another to open. Money may appear through a paycheck, a gift, a refund, an idea, a new opportunity, but behind all these visible forms is one invisible cause: your consciousness of supply. And your consciousness is shaped, moment by moment, by your faith. When Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving," she was speaking to the spiritual law of correspondence, that the outer world mirrors the inner world. If you see yourself as always lacking, that image becomes a mold that life must fill. But if you see yourself as divinely supplied, prosperous, and guided by spiritual law, then money begins to respond. It may not happen overnight, but the tide shifts the moment your belief shifts. Money begins to come not just in quantity, but with grace, ease, and divine timing. Money, then, is not something you chase. It is something you align with. Your word is your wand. Speak wealth into form. This truth, taught with power and clarity by Florence Scovel Shinn, reveals the creative force behind all manifestation. Words are not empty sounds. They are vibrational commands, charged with the energy of belief and intention. When you speak, you send out a signal to the universe, shaping the unseen substance of spirit into form. Most people speak carelessly, unaware that every word is a decree, a spell that calls conditions into being. They declare their lack, complain about their debts, or speak of their limitations, not realizing they are inviting more of the same into their lives. To speak wealth is to command the forces of abundance with authority and faith. It is not wishful thinking. It is deliberate creation. The spoken word is one of the most direct tools you possess to impress your subconscious mind and to activate divine law. If you constantly say, "I can't afford that," "I never have enough," or "money doesn't come to me easily," you are programming your mind and your environment to align with those conditions. But if you speak words of truth, such as "I am rich in divine ideas," every bill is paid with ease, or "money flows to me in perfect ways," You are reordering your reality. The law does not judge whether your words are positive or negative. It simply obeys. It acts upon the content of your speech as a blueprint. This is why affirmations, when spoken with conviction, have so much power. The more you speak wealth, success, and provision, not just once, but consistently, the more you anchor those truths into your consciousness. And once something is anchored within, it must appear without. This is not magic in the superstitious sense. It is spiritual science. It is how faith becomes form. Even in the face of seeming lack, your word must remain steadfast. It is easy to speak abundance when the bank account is full, but true mastery is speaking divine supply when outer signs contradict. This is when your word becomes a wand. It cuts through appearances. It overrides fear. It holds to truth until the outer must obey the inner decree. The universe must rearrange itself to match the vibration of your words, spoken with faith and expectancy. Your words shape your identity. Speak as one who is already prosperous. Use the language of success, not desperation. Call forth money with respect, with love, and with assurance. Money is not something to beg, for it is something to claim. Your word does the claiming. Every statement you make plants a seed in the garden of your life. Speak lack, and weeds grow. Speak wealth, and divine harvest begins to bloom. The more emotion, belief, and repetition you give to your words, the more powerful they become. Declare daily, I now speak my word of wealth. I am one with infinite supply. Money is drawn to me like a magnet by the power of divine law. Divine substance is unlimited, lack is only a shadow of fear. This is one of the most liberating truths a person can realize, for it dissolves the illusion that there is not enough. Divine substance, sometimes called universal supply, is the raw spiritual essence from which all things are made. It is invisible, eternal, and ever-present. Every object, every dollar, every opportunity that has ever come into form first began as this formless, abundant substance. It cannot be depleted, and it cannot be restricted by the world's opinions, economies, or appearances. In divine substance, there is no shortage. There is only infinite possibility waiting for your consciousness to mold it into form. When you believe in lack, you are not perceiving truth. You are under a mental shadow, a false idea rooted in fear, separation, and the illusion of limitation. Fear says, there's not enough to go around. Fear says, I might lose what I have. Fear says, what if I fail? But truth says, I am one with infinite supply. Truth says, what belongs to me by divine right cannot be withheld. Truth says, all that I need is already here in substance, if not yet in form. The spiritual law operates on recognition. If you recognize abundance as your reality, abundance must come. But if you recognize lack, if you focus on what's missing, if you rehearse your worries, if you constantly look at your needs rather than your source, then you strengthen the shadow and block the flow. Fear contracts, faith expands. Lack is not a condition, it is a belief, and beliefs can be changed. The moment you turn from fear and declare, with authority, that divine substance is flowing into your life now, you begin to dissolve the appearance of lack. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, there is a supply for every demand, and not some demands, not only reasonable demands. Every demand, when made in faith, aligned with divine right, and spoken without fear, draws from this infinite storehouse of supply. Divine substance is like an endless ocean, and you are holding the container. Come with a thimble, and you'll receive a thimbleful. Come with a barrel, and you'll receive a barrel's worth. The container is your consciousness. The larger your faith, the greater the flow. You do not need to figure out the how. Divine intelligence knows the channels. It knows what to open, what to close, who to send, what to rearrange, and how to bring forth what is yours without delay or struggle. Your part is to stay out of fear and remain aligned with truth. Speak abundance, feel abundance, give thanks in advance, and walk by faith even when the outer seems still. Remember, appearances are only delayed reflections of past thinking. To change the reflection, you must first change the recognition. Lack has no true power except that which you assign to it. It is not a permanent condition, but a mental cloud, and every cloud can be lifted. As soon as you return your thoughts to divine substance and affirm its ever-present reality, the fog begins to clear, and the flow of good begins to move once again in your direction. Tithing opens the gates of giving and receiving. This ancient principle is not merely a religious tradition, but a divine law of circulation. When you tithe, you acknowledge the source of your supply, and in doing so, you create a channel for more to return to you. Tithing is the practice of giving a portion of your income, traditionally 10%, to the place or person where you receive spiritual nourishment. It is an act of faith, of gratitude, and of alignment with divine order. Many hesitate to tithe because they fear there will not be enough left. But tithing is not about subtraction. It is about multiplication through spiritual law. When you give to the source, you recognize that your money is not yours alone. It is a symbol of flow. It has come through you, not from you. Holding tightly to it in fear only creates stagnation. Money, like all energy, must move. It must be circulated in order to grow. When you give freely, joyfully, and in trust, you activate the divine principle that what you send out returns multiplied. This is not about giving to get. It is about giving because you know your supply is limitless, that knowing becomes your magnet for more. Tithing is a declaration of partnership with God. It says, "I trust you more than I trust appearances. I believe in the abundance of your kingdom more than I believe in the scarcity of this world." When you tithe, you are not losing money. You are releasing it into the hands of divine order. That money goes out wrapped in faith, and faith always brings a harvest. It may return through increased income, unexpected gifts, cleared debts, or new opportunities, but it will return. The channel of giving must be opened before the channel of receiving can widen. Many people wait until they feel they can afford to tithe, but this reverses the law. The law says give from where you are, and then watch how provision unfolds. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that man must act as if he is already rich, and tithing is a key part of that demonstration. Giving, even in small amounts, affirms that you are not under the dominion of lack. It shifts your consciousness from fear to faith, from holding to flowing, from survival to divine partnership. It is also important to give where you are spiritually fed. When you tithe to those who uplift your soul, you honor the flow of spiritual nourishment in your life. This maintains the sacred balance between inner and outer wealth. Tithing is not just about money, it is about alignment. It aligns your financial life with your spiritual life. It places your income under divine law, and anything placed under divine law is subject to divine increase. You become a steward, not a hoarder. You enter the rhythm of circulation, the divine breath of the universe. Inhale and exhale, giving and receiving. Every act of giving plants a seed, and every seed contains the pattern of multiplied return. Gratitude magnetizes complain, and you repel supply. This law is subtle yet immensely powerful. Gratitude is not simply a polite gesture or a temporary feeling. It is a dynamic spiritual force. It is one of the highest vibrations in the universe, and when you dwell in it, you attract to yourself more of what you are grateful for. In contrast, complaint carries a low vibration. It is rooted in dissatisfaction, fear, and resistance. Where gratitude opens the heart and aligns the soul with abundance, complaint closes it, shutting off the channels through which blessings flow. The universe responds to your energy, not just your actions. When you live in a state of sincere gratitude, you are declaring to divine intelligence, I see my blessings, I recognize the flow, and I am ready for more. It is a spiritual acknowledgement that your good has already begun, even if it has not yet fully appeared. Gratitude does not wait for visible results. It creates them. It changes your frequency and puts you in harmony with the divine source of supply. Florence Scovel Shinn often taught that what you praise increases. When you give thanks for your money, no matter how little it may seem, you set in motion a law that multiplies it. You are telling the universe that you are a worthy steward of wealth, that you recognize divine provision even in small forms. This appreciation causes your good to expand. On the other hand, if you constantly complain about what you lack, you give energy to that lack. You focus on what is missing, and by law, you create more of it. Gratitude is spiritual magnetism. It pulls to you more opportunities, more open doors, more unexpected blessings. It does not depend on how much you have. It depends on how you see what you have. The person who gives thanks for a single dollar may be far richer in consciousness than the one who complains about having only 1,000. Your attitude shapes your altitude. Your inner posture determines how much the divine can do through you. It is important to cultivate a habit of gratitude, not just when things are going well, but especially when they are not. To say thank you, even in the midst of seeming difficulty, is a spiritual act of power. It declares, I trust that good is here, even if I do not yet see it. This kind of gratitude transcends circumstances. It shifts your perception from limitation to possibility, from worry to faith, from waiting to receiving. Complain, and you remain in the problem. Give thanks, and you rise into the solution. Every time you focus on what's wrong, you reinforce it. Every time you focus on what's right, you expand it. Life mirrors your dominant vibration, and gratitude keeps that vibration high, clear, and receptive. A grateful heart is never empty. It is always being filled by the unseen hand of divine abundance. Obedience to divine guidance leads to unexpected channels of income. In the realm of spiritual law, nothing happens by chance. Prosperity is not merely the result of hard work or logical planning. It is often the outcome of listening, trusting, and acting upon the still small voice within. Divine guidance is ever present, but to benefit from it, one must be attuned, willing, and obedient. Many miss their blessings because they ignore or second guess that inner nudge, the quiet prompting that leads to new ideas, inspired actions, or timely connections. The path to abundance is not always predictable, but it is always revealed to those who listen. Divine guidance comes in many forms: a sudden thought, a feeling of peace about a decision, a recurring idea that refuses to go away, or a clear inner knowing that says, this is the way. Often, the guidance does not make sense to the rational mind. It may seem unrelated to your goals or outside your comfort zone. Yet when you obey it, doors open, resources appear, and income flows from channels you never considered. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized that intuition is the spiritual faculty that doesn't explain. It simply points the way. Those who obey without delay often find themselves in the right place at the right time, receiving the right opportunities. Obedience to divine guidance also means letting go of rigid expectations. Sometimes you believe money must come through a specific job, client, or business plan, and when that path doesn't produce results, you feel discouraged. But divine law is not bound by your plans. It may lead you to make a phone call, take a walk, write an email, attend an event, or revisit an old idea. Small actions that, when followed, lead to surprising outcomes. What looks like a coincidence is often the result of spiritual alignment. When you ignore divine prompts, you delay your good. The universe does not punish, but it waits for your cooperation. You must be willing to follow even when the way is not fully clear. Each step unfolds more light. Faith is often required before evidence appears. Obedience to guidance is an act of faith, It is saying, I trust that Spirit knows more than I do, and I am willing to follow. Income may come through unexpected promotions, gifts, ideas that generate revenue, partnerships that prosper, or even sudden solutions to old problems. The key is to stay open, listen deeply, and move when directed. Sometimes divine guidance may even instruct you to give, forgive, or release something you've been holding on to. An act that unblocks the flow of prosperity. The channels are limitless, but your willingness must be active. You must be spiritually alert and ready to act. Divine guidance is always for your highest good, and it always leads to increase, never decrease. It will not lead you into fear, but through it. It will guide you into greater expansion, provision, and peace. When you make it a daily practice to ask, what is mine to do, and follow what comes, you live under the law of divine supply.